Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who said that Matthew Semmelsberger has nothing for Jake Matthews. Jake is just better everywhere. All right. Jared Cannonier versus Sean Strickland. I'm going to talk about the whole event, but I'm going to start at the top. I thought the fight was razor thin. Could have gone either way. There's no robbery here. It happened to go Jared Cannonier's way. And I also could have seen a 50-45 going either way. Every single round was a toss-up. I don't know if I could say that about any other fight. Usually, there's one definitive round. I think back to like John Jones versus Dominic Reyes. I remember saying, there's 4 rounds that could go either way or whatever. Or maybe 3. I don't fucking know. But anyway, in this one, there were 5. Immediately after the fight, that's what I said to myself. 50-45 is possible. 48-47, I suppose, is more likely. But it's a crapshoot. Doesn't matter. I want to see who wins. And the cookie crumbled Cannonier's way. Cannonier was impressive in this one. He did exceed my expectations. He did not let Sean Strickland take over down the stretch. Sean Strickland is a better decision fighter. Sean Strickland was 11-2 in decisions coming into this fight. Jared Cannonier was 3-4. So Strickland is definitely the better decision fighter. And I know there's, a whole bunch of different factors there, starting with their opponents. But still, I think it's been proven over time that Sean Strickland's a better decision fighter. And Cannonier was in his face. Cannonier did not let himself get settled behind that jab or, the longer strikes of Sean Strickland. And he was there with power, down low, up high throughout the whole fight, mainly down low. And he scratched and clawed to get the decision victory. I personally thought Sean Strickland won it, but, it's not like even that. I doubt my own scorecard. I feel like I watch it again, I might find Cannonier winning, but really I know what I saw last night. They were all toss-ups. Each round was a toss-up, and it was volume versus power, and it was a relatively even fight. I know Sean Strickland, I'm assuming he put up better numbers. I think I heard that in the post-fight show. I don't know the numbers. But yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. But Jared Cannonier, of the 10 best moments of the fight, which there weren't many, there wasn't even one big moment. But of the 10 biggest moments, whatever they were, 8 of them or so were for Jared Cannonier. He was having the bigger moments, but just there was nothing definitive enough to steal a round. So, whatever, it sucks, I guess, for the loser in a fight like this, Sean Strickland. Yeah, but Cannonier gets his money, and he gets to step over him. And now, if Pereira is the champion by the time Cannonier is in title range, which I think he needs one more victory, then that's good for him, because I think he would get a fight with Pereira if it was the next logical option. But if he was the next logical option for Adesanya, if he beats Pereira, whatever the hell happens in the division, I don't think Cannonier gets the fight against Adesanya. So, Strickland may have had an easier time getting Adesanya. Certainly, I think he's going to have an even tougher time getting Pereira than Cannonier would have had getting the Adesanya fight. But regardless, the fight played out the way it played out. Jared Cannonier steps up, and Sean Strickland, even though his stock doesn't drop too greatly, it's a shitty night for him. Again, he's lost money. These guys are prize fighters. And lost a little standing in the division as well. Who am I kidding? His stock did drop a little bit. That's just the way it goes. Arman Tsarukyan takes out Demiris Magulov. That was a very impressive performance. I feel like it didn't look too impressive. Probably didn't win a lot of fans and whatever, aside from the diehards. But anybody that was, anybody that was high on Ismagulov in the first place was probably a diehard fan. This was a very good fight, though. And still, I think, even though Ismagulov was largely dominated, I guess, kind of, I think his ceiling is still championship. That's a difficult fight for him, Arman. And, of course, the champion, especially after that performance from Arman, the champion Islam Makhachev looks like an even bigger puzzle, an even bigger problem. But I still think Demiris Magulov is very good. I'd love to see him fight any of the top guys. And I really hope the UFC didn't look at this and say, Arman Tsarukyan is not a bankable guy. I don't want to see him in a 5-rounder, main eventing or whatever, because he didn't put away his Magulov. I hope they don't knock him like that. because I just have a feeling the UFC looked at a fight like this and said, I got an idea. You know what we should do that'll really move the division forward? We'll put Michael Chandler in there with Justin Gaethje, and we'll have Dustin Poirier as the special guest referee. No, I want to see these guys, the younger guys, fight the older guys. They've all fought each other. I'm glad Chandler and Poirier fought because I wanted to see all those guys fight each other. But now it's over. Now they've got to fight this newer crop. And Arman Tsarukyan, even though he lost to Gamrot, I want to say he's at the top of the list. Arman Tsarukyan, I think he's got the most potential. Still looks like a tough matchup. Islam Makhachev looks like a tough matchup for him because he seems to be better than Arman at what Arman's great at. But Arman is only 26 years old. He looks sharp every time we see him. Really mixes up the striking, the wrestling, and the wrestling and the wrestling. You know, he's got great chain wrestling, and his jiu-jitsu was there for him last night as well, too. You know, he had great back takes. Really made his Magulov uncomfortable. He took his back a few different times and did it a few different ways, and stepped over a guy with a 19-fight winning streak, which is just a big feather in his cap. You know, anytime you could see a guy lose for the first time in 10 years or whatever, it's always a sight to behold. Even if the guy's under the radar and the fight isn't that thrilling and whatever, it was still a very impressive victory. And for Damir, you know, again, like I said, his ceiling is still a title shot, but, you know, he's definitely got to sharpen things up. Arman would be a gigantic favorite over him in a rematch, a much bigger favorite, because there seemed to be a gap in the grappling. But Damir's Magulov was able to survive, hang in there. I was impressed with his skills defensively and offensively on the feet. I do think he wasn't able to shine. This is one of the very few fights where he wasn't able to do his thing. And he's still going to move forward, and I hope he gets a good fight next. Next up, Amir Albazi takes out Alessandro Costa. This was a very good fight. I love how he got the third-round finish. You know, Amir Albazi is more of a grappler. These guys both, I think, are both grapplers, but they both have power in their hands. And this was similar to, I forget the fight, the name of the guy that beat Alessandro Costa. Uriel something, Uriel Cosio. I think that's the guy that took him out with the spinning kick in round 2. But this seemed like a longer version of that fight, only without him dominating in round 1. But, you know, it was a grappling affair, and I thought he was settling into grappling mode early on, and that was his thing. But Albazi took over. You know, Albazi was a step ahead really the whole time, and then in the end, his power was there for him deep in the fight, and got a beautiful, clean knockout with a nice uppercut. And it's a highlight reel, maybe his best highlight, even though he's already got some beautiful submissions. And this guy is looking real pretty in the division there. That guy's, another potential contender. I want to say his ceiling is title shot. And he's pretty fucking close, believe it or not. He's got to fight some better fighters, obviously, taking out Alessandro Costa. But he's got a damn pretty UFC record. Julian Erosa did get knocked out by Caceres. I got this one totally wrong. I think I even said knockout is off the table for Caceres, but I think I also said anybody could get knocked out. Maybe I'm not sure if I said this in the pre-fight, but I thought there was one way you could get a knockout, and it's with a kick like that. And it was almost exactly the way I imagined it. It would just have to be the perfect kick. He set it up with his hands. He looked like Carlos Condit or Stephen Thompson or whatever. Very impressive. And he snuck that perfect kick in there, right on the chin, and that was it. Julian Erosa, like I said, he's one of my favorite fighters, still is, but he does have a weak chin. He's got now, this is 6 knockout losses, 7, I believe, if you count Artem Lobov on The Ultimate Fighter. And, his chin is going to be a weakness moving forward. Really sucks for the guy because he had so much momentum and so many great victories. But, it's not good, you know. Another knockout loss for Julian Erosa, and to the one guy that, again, has no knockouts. He had one injury TKO in the UFC, and outside the UFC, he had a second and third round TKO deep into the fight. But he doesn't have the knockout power, generally. But, he's got the technique, and it was good enough. He found that chin. It was maybe the best moment in his career, aside from, I guess, choking out Sergio Pettis. But one of his best highlights, Alex Caceres. And I'm happy for him, too. Even though I'm an Arosa fan, I like Caceres. He's been fighting in the UFC for so long now, and he's always been one of those under-the-radar guys. Anytime he has a moment, or a guy like that has a moment, it's always cool. So even at the expense of Arosa, great knockout win for Caceres. I'm glad he got it done on the main card. Drew Dober takes out Bobby Green. This was a very cool fight. Fight of the night. Bobby Green was styling on Drew Dober early. Of course, everything is worse because he's talking shit. But that's what makes Bobby Green awesome. You know, he's only paid for it twice against Drew Dober and Dustin Poirier. Who, by the way, Drew Dober, I should say, with the win, is now tied with Poirier for knockouts in the UFC. And it's no coincidence that those are the two guys that cracked Bobby Green's chin. But they are, and Dober has got a left hand from hell. He just has to close the distance and get inside, and that's what he did with Bobby Green. It took him a while, but he was able to corner Bobby Green, started getting him to slow down a little bit, and Bobby Green still talking, I believe, during the knockout, but he just, got a little too cocky, a little too confident in his head movement, and it wasn't there for him in the end. Drew Dober hit him through like 5 big left hands, and one of them, or a few of them, landed right on the chin. The last one put him down, and that was it. I don't think it was a bad stoppage. It was pretty immediate, but the ref saw Bobby Green. He had a very close look at him. I think he would have been smashed unconscious in that moment. And he might have been unconscious anyway from the big punch. But Drew Dober, you got to credit this guy, man. He's got 3 big wins in 2022 after a long and storied UFC career anyway. In 2022, he gets 3 big wins. They're all these epic comeback moments. Terrence McKinney, Bobby Green, Rafael Alves. And for him to get 3 KOs like that, he's become a bit of a star, Drew Dober. I don't know if you could say he could headline a fight night event or whatever. I don't know if he's there ranking-wise or whatever, but I don't think the fans would scoff at it if Drew Dober was in a 5-round main event. He did call for a fight with Jalen Turner, which that would be interesting, 5 rounds. That would be fucking awesome, him and Jalen Turner going at it, because Jalen Turner is one of the most dangerous guys in the division. And, of course, so is Drew Dober. But we'll see what happens with Drew Dober. With him, I don't think the sky's the limit, as he's proven against, as it's been proven against some of the guys ahead of him, Dariush and Islam Makhachev and whoever. But Drew Dober is still an action fighter that is worthy of a main card slot on any card he's on. And I hope he continues fighting for a long time in the UFC. He's 34, getting up there, but he's in his prime right now. And as for Bobby Green, he put it all on the line, talking shit and whatever, and he got knocked out. And that's why we love Bobby Green. It doesn't often work against him like that. Again, this is only his 2nd knockout loss. But that's part of his charm, and that's part of what makes him a good fighter. Like I said, and Drew Dober said in the post-fight interview, yeah, it wears on you when he's talking and styling on you and whatever. And that's a huge part of his game, but when it works against him, it looks bad. It's like, one of those karma moments, and whatever. You can only thank him for putting it on the line like that. Matthew Semelsberger takes out Jake Matthews. This was an example of a fight that I always talk about. I always reference saying power can win decisions, or big moments can win decisions. Big moments. And that's what we saw here from Matthew Semelsberger. He needed big moments, and he had them in each round. Got a knockdown in each round against Jake Matthews. I think the first of which was the biggest. And Jake, was, I think, winning the point battle in between. Wasn't able to win the wrestling battle, which would have opened up a lot of doors for him, I think, especially down the stretch. But Semelsberger was able to win the wrestling battle, and on the feet, even if he was being outpointed, it wasn't by a huge margin, and Semelsberger had the power. It was there for him every round, and the technique, of course. Can't discount that. And he made it work for him. He got a big, big victory over a guy that was looking as good as he's ever looked. Came into this fight with a lot of hype, and he already had a nice storied career in the UFC. And Semelsberger steps over him. Great win for Matthew Semmelsberger. Really impressive. And in my opinion, this goes down as a classic example of a guy who's outgunned everywhere and needs those big moments to win. That's his only way of winning a decision. Of course, one big moment could end the fight for you with a knockout. But for him to win a decision over a guy that I considered the superior fighter everywhere was just eye-opening and a great performance. Sucks for Jake Matthews. He is still, very durable, I think. He's never been knocked out. The Kevin Lee victory was from the back mount. But this, and I can't say this opens up questions about his chin, because I did consider Semmelsberger to be one of the harder hitters in the division. But still, it's a tough loss. Doesn't look good on his record, having lost to Matthew Semmelsberger. And now his stock drops a little bit, no doubt. Said Nurmagomedov takes out Sadykhub Kakhramonov. This was a really interesting fight. Very interesting. Seemed to be going I guess I could say, I thought Nurmagomedov would win by points. And it looked to be going the exact opposite of that. But Kakhramonov, man, he's such a good fighter. He's got such good pressure and such good grappling. He really was dominating Said Nurmagomedov, I thought. Largely, he was dominating. Faced a tight guillotine early on and then certainly later. But Sadykhub was just relentless. I thought he was on pace to break Said Nurmagomedov and maybe get a finish in round 3. I thought that right up until the final moments where he got tapped. But Said Nurmagomedov, you got to hand it to him. He faced a lot of adversity here. A guy that was in his face, seemed to be, in the middle of the matchup, it occurred to me that this was a bad matchup for him. But he found a way to win. His grappling was there for him defensively. Sadykhub was passing, and Nurmagomedov, I should say, kept reclaiming his guard and defending. But it was a relentless performance. Sadykhub wasn't giving him a lot of room to breathe, and he was just being smothered. But he kept fighting and fighting for little inches, got up against the cage, locked up a guillotine defensively, I thought, to create some space or whatever, but instead he decided to go for it, got his arm in deep there, and that's 2 guillotines now for Said Nurmagomedov. And this one is a win that will get better with age. I don't know if the Cody Stamann fight's going to get much better with age, even though I consider that a great victory, but this was a great finish over a very tough guy, Sadykhub Kakhramonov, who I think can beat anybody, including Said Nurmagomedov, obviously. So, awesome win for Nurmagomedov. One of his best victories. I know he's looked better, just kicking ass, but it's cool to see a fighter face adversity like this and come away with the win, especially after the way the Barcelos fight went, where, not that he faded really, but just tactical errors and blah, blah, blah. He lost round 3. He lost the second half of that fight, and to see him get a comeback victory like this deep into round 2 was awesome. Next up, Rafa Garcia takes out Mahashate. This was a fucking war. This went kind of like the opposite of what I thought. I thought it would go down like this, where one guy had the advantage on the ground, one guy had the advantage standing, but I thought it would have produced a finish and not via cut. It actually did come very close to getting stopped, I guess, because Garcia lost a pound of blood or whatever. But he still could see and whatever, because the cut was on the side of his head and he was able to fight on. And it's a good thing he was, because he took over that fight. His wrestling was there for him increasingly as the fight went on. I think he had a hard time dealing with the athleticism of Mahashate, but as he warmed down a little bit, Garcia was there, and Mahashate was still there, but he wasn't able to keep up with Garcia's pace. Garcia kept getting in on his hips, and anytime he did, he was able to get him to the mat. And Garcia, you got to hand it to him, because, I don't know what he felt like, but he lost a lot of fucking blood, and he was dealing with a very good striker. Mahashate, I know he's a kid, and I thought, there's lessons to be learned and whatever, but he looks like he's really good at fighting long. Rafa Garcia did have an advantage. I think he realized early on that he wasn't able to thwart his wrestling once he got in on him, but Mahashate was still making an effort to fight long, and then when he felt Garcia coming in, he would try to meet him with knockout strikes up the middle, knees and kicks. I thought he was fighting as well as he could tactically against a guy that was better than him on the ground and fucking relentless. But in the end, Rafa Garcia was relentless, got an awesome decision victory, and he moves forward in the UFC. And I bet on the under because I really thought Majate had great offensive prowess, great crisp striking, and it could produce a finish if Garcia wasn't able to take him down. But I'm back to trusting Garcia's durability. And I also trust Majate's grappling defense a little more as well. Rinat Fakhretdinov takes out Bryan Battle. This was a dominant performance, just dominant. I don't even know what the scorecards were. Could have been 30-27, could have been 30-23. I don't even know. But Bryan Battle didn't have anything for Rinat, or, on the ground is largely where the fight was held, and he had nothing to defend the wrestling, and on the ground, he didn't have anything for Fakhretdinov. It was just a long, slow mauling. Fakhretdinov did crack him and drop him on his ass in round 3, the beginning of round 3, and that was just the icing on the cake. Even though he ended up going the distance, it was still a great way to cap off the victory and a great way to take Bryan Battle out of that fight completely, because he knew he was down in round 3 and he needed a big moment, needed a finish, and instead he got sat on his ass. Great victory for Rinat Fakhretdinov. Tough loss for Bryan Battle. He's still got a very high ceiling, got a great frame for welterweight, but, he's got to work on his wrestling defense no matter what. I mean, even if Rinat is that good, no one should look that dominant over a world-class fighter. So he's got some work to do, Bryan Battle. He's still young and improving, very inexperienced compared to Rinat Fakhretdinov, or, at least quite inexperienced. But great win for Rinat. He's had 2 fights in the UFC, and he looked like a tactical wrestler and a really well-rounded fighter, especially when you consider he's got all knockouts before he came to the UFC, and a few submissions, of course. Next up, Manel Kape takes out David Dvorak. I did say Kape has an underrated ground game. I just didn't expect it to, work for him like that. That was a very impressive performance from Manel Kape overall. David Dvorak did get him down early. Manel Kape made stupid mistakes. He is a great striker, but he got taken down twice with spinning shit. A spinning kick, I think, early, and a spinning elbow or punch or whatever in the second round. And that's no good. I thought that was stupid. But aside from that, it was a perfect performance. Again, he did get taken down in round 1. It looked like Dvorak was about to take over. Even though on the feet, I thought Dvorak was doing well, just being stalked by Kape. But in the early portion of round 1, I thought he was outlanding and doing well. And then he got Kape down. I was like, all right, that seals the round for Dvorak. And then Kape locks up a Kimura and sweeps him with the Kimura and then almost submits him. Damn near breaks his arm. Definitely compromised his shoulder. I mean, his arm was behind his head, scratching his neck. It was insane. But he wasn't able to get the submission. Dvorak showed a lot of toughness. And then he went on to show even more toughness. Because round 2, Manel Kape looked even better. Really working him on the feet. Just incredible body shots. Worked him over with body shots. I was so sure he was going to get the finish. And I bet on Kape to win by round 2 knockouts. I was so pleased. And Dvorak just showed me next level toughness. I said in the pre-fight he'd been hurt by Mateus Nicolau and Bruno Silva. And if Manel Kape gets him hurt, where he's, almost out, Manel Kape will put him out. And I was wrong. Maybe Dvorak just is that tough. Again, his only TKO loss is a cut. And that's earlier in his career. So he's never been finished, truly. And he showed next level toughness here against one of the best and certainly the most dangerous fighter, I think, in the division. Great win for Kape. Now he's 3-2, but again, he's a very pretty 3-2. And I think this win over Dvorak is going to get better with age, especially with the toughness and all the little intangibles Dvorak showed. But yeah, good win. Awesome second fight of the night. And Sergey Morozov took out Journey Newsom. I realized I wrote down Newsom when I did my pre-fight video. Journey Newsom. This fight, we did get to see grappling, but it was still largely Morozov just dominant with his wrestling. Journey Newsom did get his back taken. His jiu-jitsu was there for him defensively, but that's pretty much the story of this fight. And on the feet, they both cracked each other a little bit, but just seemed, after the wrestling started to work for Morozov, that it was an inevitability each round. And Morozov was just a sharper athlete and an overall better fighter every step of the way. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos and comment below.